Hare Krishna. So we'll chant the Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Gauranitai Gauranitai Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Srinivas Govinda Jayo Prahlad Narsimha, Jayo Prahlad Narsimha, Jayo Prahlad Narsimha, Jayo Prahlad Narsimha. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Nittai Gauranga ki, Shri Srinivas Govinda ki, Shri Prahlad Narsimhadev ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nittai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So before we start, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be discussing from the 17th chapter, text 23. So let's all recite it. Just bringing up the verse here. Please repeat after me. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho. Brahmanas Trivida Smrita. Brahmanas Trivida Smrita. Brahmanas Tena Vedascha. Brahmanas Tena Vedascha. Yagnascha Vihita Pura. Yagnascha Vihita Pura. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho. Brahmanas Trivida Smrita. Brahmanas Tena Vedascha. Yagnascha Vihita Pura. Right, so you can do the word-to-word meanings. Please repeat after me. Om, indication of the Supreme. Tat, that. Sat, eternal. Iti, that. Nirdeshaha, indication. Brahmanaha, of the Supreme. Trivida, three kinds. Smritaha, consider. Brahmana, the Brahmanas. Tena, therefore. Vedaha, the Vedic literature. Cha, also. Yagnaha, sacrifice. Cha, also. Vidaha, sacrifice. Pura, formerly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So please repeat the translation. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Purport. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. When they are aimed at the Supreme, Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charities, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. Performed in the modes of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Example, Om Tad Vishnoho. Whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is the indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from the Vedic hymns. Om iti etat brahmana nedistam nama indicates the first goal. Then Tattvamasi indicates the second goal, and Sat Eva Saumya indicates the third goal. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he spoke these three names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same principle holds by disciplic succession. So this hymn has a great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. Thus ends the purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So this chapter, this 17th chapter, the divisions of faith, it actually starts with Arjuna asking a question to Krishna in the beginning. Most of the chapters start with Arjuna asking a particular question, and then Krishna elaborates. And this verse 23 and the next 4 verses are actually pretty much the conclusion of this chapter. Krishna is concluding about how sacrifices, yajna, and then austerity, tapa, and charity, dana, how these should be performed. And as Prabhupada says in the beginning of the purport, it has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into 3 categories: the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So before we understand this verse, it is good to have a good recap of what has happened so far in the 17th chapter, that Krishna is now giving some conclusions. Right? So let's understand in these different modes of nature, how are these activities being performed. Krishna is actually this very interesting chapter, another chapter that proves that Bhagavad Gita is a scientific study. Even Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada is saying here, Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities. What does this mean, scientific? See, when we go through these verses, you will see that there is nothing mythology or some imagination or some kind of blind faith or anything where there is no real basis. Everything is actually, if you won't find anything mythological or sentimental or anything, actually very practical. Even from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara, right? The soul is always changing its body. Even in the same body, the soul is actually transmigrating from a child body, to a youth body, to elderly body, to old body. There is no mythology in this, right? It is pure science. Even as per science, it is known that the living force, the living being is there, but the body is constantly changing. The the blood cells are dividing, new cells are being formed, old cells are being discarded. So much so that even scientists say that once in 7 years, every cell that we have today, you add 7 years, it's 2022, right? 2029, we are all completely different body. They say that every cell that existed will be totally replaced in 7 years. Not even a single cell that you had 7 years ago is there in your body. But you're still the same person. What does that mean? That means we are not this body, we are something else. We are that living force in the body, the soul. And that's what Krishna is also saying, right? So here, coming back to the 17th chapter, this is known as divisions of faith. And it starts off by Arjuna. He asks Krishna that, I'll read out the verse here. So Arjuna is saying, what is the situation of one who does not follow the principles of scripture, but who worships according to his own imagination? So Arjuna got a doubt that, this worship, renunciation, all these things are mentioned. But what if one is not following the scriptures at all? Our Vedic scriptures, the code of conduct, the Manu Samhita, the Vedas, so much have been given for human being to elevate himself. But he gets a doubt because, it is known, we see in today's world also, a lot of this worshipping happens without any basis of, Vedic knowledge or scientific understanding. So he asks, what happens to a person who worships, as per his own imagination, something he is imagining and is worshipping? And then he's asking, what is this, do you think, Krishna is saying, is he in goodness, passion, or ignorance? So this is Arjuna's question. So he's proposing, he's saying, he's putting a proposal, somebody is worshipping as per his imagination, what mode is he in? Is he goodness, passion, or ignorance? Simple question, right? Literally like a one-word answer looks like. Any clue what Krishna says? Is it in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Those are the three options Arjuna gave. One is worshipping on his own. What do you think Krishna says? Passion. Anybody else? Goodness and ignorance are there. Anyone wants to say? Actually, Krishna says very interesting answer. It is not a one word or a one line answer. So here, Krishna really elaborates this. So Krishna says, the Supreme Lord said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: goodness, passion, or ignorance. So the answer to Arjuna's question, is it goodness, passion, or ignorance? Answer is all of above. Right? What Krishna is saying, based on the modes one has acquired. So if one is worshipping on his own, whatever his imagination or whatever worshipping one is doing, it depends on what mode is he in. Depends on whether he's in goodness, passion, or ignorance. And then Krishna says, now hear about this. So that means this worship is going to be different. A person in the mode of goodness, his worship is different than the worship of a person in the mode of passion, and the worship of a person who is in the mode of ignorance. And then Krishna further elaborates. He says, not only worship, I will also tell about sacrifices, yajna, what kind of yajnas these people do. He also talks about the kind of food they eat, the people in these three modes. He also talks about the kind of charity they give. And he also talks about the kind of austerities, tapasyas they do. So before we go, let's have a very quick recap of these three modes. So what are the three modes? We talked about it. First is goodness. Goodness is also known as, in Sanskrit, Sattva-guna. So what are the characteristics of Sattva-guna? If you quickly recap these three characteristics, we know in the mind what kind of people Krishna is talking about here. So what are the characteristics of people in mode of goodness in Sattva-guna? Sorry? Truthful, yeah. Cleanliness, clean, yes. And what else? Peaceful, yes. Happiness, yeah. Satisfied, they have some happiness. Anything else? Huh? Vegetarian. Yes, if they are kind and compassionate, which are the signs of a person in the mode of goodness, he better be vegetarian. If somebody is unfortunately involved in meat eating, where there is so much brutal killing of innocent animals, there is no way they can be classified in goodness, right? So truthful, honesty, kind, compassionate, peaceful, satisfied, self-controlled, disciplined. These are the various characteristics of people in the mode of goodness. Now, what about people in the mode of passion? What is their characteristic? Anger, okay. What is the primary characteristics? What is the driving factor for them? What is passion? What is it called in Sanskrit? Rajoguna. What are the characteristics of people in Rajoguna, mode of passion? Dominance. Anger, sorry? Trying to satisfy senses, yes, yeah. So actually, they have a very strong desire for satisfying their senses. It is known as, unconquerable hankering, lot of very strong desire and hankering and lust to satisfy their senses. Satisfy senses at the body level, satisfy the senses at the intellectual level, and at the mental level, they satisfy the mind. They want name, fame, pride, all these things. And as a result of those, if you are working very eagerly, anxiously for name and fame, naturally, when you don't get it, there will be anger. Like one of you said, anger. Yeah, definitely, it's a side effect of a passionate person. Because of being so passionate, unfortunately, as per karma, he won't get everything that he wants. Right? There is this nice statement. There is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. So the people in the mode of passion, they have a lot of greed, and there is not enough for everyone's greed. So it will lead to anger, envy, jealousy, right? But mode of passion is characterized by hankering, desire for name, fame, and sense enjoyment and pleasures. And what is the third mode of ignorance? What is it called in Sanskrit? Tamoguna. What is the characteristics of people in Tamoguna? Lazy and anything else? Envious. Lamentation, yes, yeah. Enviousness is mostly passion. Yeah. The mode of ignorance also they will have. Yes, yeah. So laziness and what is it that you said? Lamentation, and then it is pretty much said illusion and madness. Right? So very lazy, and they're not following rules and regulations. They don't adhere to anybody. They don't follow any authority. They want to do whatever they want. Right? So these are the three modes. Now we know that these three characteristics. Now Krishna is going to tell, based on the mode, what is it, their particular kind of worship will be. So first thing he says is worship, because Arjuna's question was worship, one who is worshipping as per his imagination. Right? How is the worship will be? So those in the mode of goodness, Sattva-guna, we already talked about. Now we all know what you're talking. So what do you think Krishna says, whom do they worship? The people in mode of goodness. Whom do they worship? Krishna. Any other answers? Lord Vishnu. Anything else? Actually, Krishna and Vishnu worship is actually transcendental. It is beyond goodness. It is actually Shuddha Sattva. Right? So goodness, Krishna says they worship the... Who? Who do they worship now? Demigods, yes. Krishna says the people in the mode of goodness worship demigods. And then people in the mode of passion. We already know what kind of people mode of passion. Whom do they worship? Politicians. Even more accurate term that Krishna uses here. Businessmen. Any other guesses? It will be a little difficult. It's a strong word. I gave a clue. Whom do the people in mode of passion, whom do they worship? Krishna says here they worship the demons. Ooh, demon. It's very strong. And I said yes for politician. Now I'll be in trouble. So who is a demon? What is the definition of demon? Has 4 hands and very black and 2 teeth outside. That's how they show in the movies. What is the definition of demon? Who is a demon? Bad people. How do you define bad? Yes, go ahead. Yes, who don't accept the authority of God. They are demons. It is mentioned, Vishnu Bhakta Bhaved Daiva Asuras Tat Viparyaha. So Vishnu Bhakta, one who is a devotee of the Lord, they are Daiva, they are as good as demigods. Now we should not think we are all as good as demigods, but it is said, the Devatas, they are all the devotees of the Lord. Vishnu Bhakta Bhaved Daiva. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord, one who does not accept, as Vishal Prabhu said, one who does not accept the supreme authority of God, atheistic people who don't accept. What does it mean? Once they don't accept God, they don't accept Vedic authority, they don't accept any rules, regulations. They want to do whatever they want. That is demons. And Prabhupada in the purport for this verse, he gives a nice example of demon worship. Prabhupada said in Calcutta during World War II, there was one person who worshipped, whom did he worship? Any guesses? He worshipped Hitler, it seems. Why? Because of the World War II caused by Hitler, he had done a lot of dealing in black market, right? Generally when war happens, there is always a lot of confusion. Like unfortunately, it's in Ukraine it's happening, right? So when the whole world situation, economic situation gets destabilized, and there is a lot of panic and fear. So this person was doing, selling lots of his goods in black market, and he was making a lot of money. So he put a picture of Hitler, and I think probably from a newspaper cutting or something, and he was worshipping him. Right? So this is a classic example of demon worship. and driven by mode of passion. See, what Krishna told exactly it became true, right? How can somebody say this is not scientific? What Krishna said 5,000 years ago, practically during World War II, we have seen Hitler is a demonic person. And a person in the mode of passion who is making a lot of money and everything, satisfying his senses, he is worshipping Hitler. See, there's another proof. So Prabhupada says actually everything in the Vedic knowledge, it will prove to be true. It is only, you will save a lot of time if you accept the Vedic authority directly. For example, Earth is a spherical globe. Right? That is as per the Vedic scripture, it says Bhugola, Bhumandala, everywhere the Anda, the word is used. That means it's circular in shape. But until, a few hundreds of years ago, there was a debate and this and that, and finally until they could send some satellites up in the sky, there was no confirmation. Whether Earth was flat, there is still a debate. There are still some people who say flat Earth, phenomena. They say Earth is flat, they say. See? Because when you see it, you can't figure out that it is a huge globe, right? So Bhugola, Brahmanda, in that way, even the whole universe is a spherical shape like this. So there are so many things mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, including the, the Navagraha, the planetary systems, or the stars and pole stars. So much description is there. But now they're sending this, space telescopes and spending a lot of time and energy and money only to discover what is already there in the Vedas, right? So that way, just want to mention that, the Vedic literature is actually very scientific, and one can save a lot of time and energy if they directly accept it. So that is the worship of people in the mode of passion. They worship the demons. Now what about the people in the mode of ignorance? Whom do they worship? Sorry? Huh? Ghosts and spirits. The people in the mode of ignorance. Why? Because they're very lazy and they're almost illusion. They're mad. They're like crazy people, and they don't follow any rules, regulations. So it's still, I think nowadays, hopefully it's not current, but we, at least in childhood, we might have heard stories or seen some movies or somewhere where people go to the forest. Somebody will say there is a ghost or a spirit on this tree, and they start worshipping it. Right? So it's a ghostly worship. They think they will get some special benefit, mercy out of them. So now people in the mode of ignorance, they're worshipping ghosts and spirits. So that is what Krishna said about worship. And then interestingly, Krishna wants to elaborate further. And then he says, now I will also talk about the food that these people in these three modes they like. Krishna says even food which all partake is of three kinds. Everything is divided into three. Prabhupada says actually this whole world is actually being driven by these three modes. Just like the three primary colors, television, nowadays all LCD monitors and all, we can't really figure out. Even our phone, there are like, 500 pixels per inch, we can't even figure out. But earlier TV, if you see, there are three primary colors, right? Red, green, blue, and it's just a combination of that, you can bring all kinds of colors. So in the same way, this whole material world literally is characterized, everything you can analyze to these three modes. It's combination of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So even the food is of three modes. So, and then Krishna says it is the same for sacrifices, austerities, and charity. So we'll talk about that also. So food's in the mode of goodness. So what is the characteristic of food in mode of goodness? Anybody want to say what Krishna says here? How is the food in the mode of goodness? It's prasadam. That is again transcendental. Yes, definitely. Something has to be in goodness so that it can go to the next platform. So prasadam, now if you, he has given a clue. Everything if you analyze about prasadam, you can say it is food in the mode of goodness. So I'll read it out here. So the food in the mode of goodness increases the duration of life, purifies one's existence, and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. And how are these foods? These foods are sweet, juicy, fatty, and palatable. So foods in the sweet, that doesn't mean we all should eat extra sweet. That Prabhuji said, goodness, we all increase. Then I'll get a call from the kitchen department. The sweet is running out today. So, but yes, yeah, sweets are in the mode of goodness. That's why it is said Brahmanas, they like sweets. So if somebody likes sweet, it's a good sign. But if they like way too much sweet, then again that is a problem. So the foods are sweet, juicy, and fatty. So fatty, Prabhupada in the purport, he explains this fat, we should never think of animal fat or fat derived from animal products. The right way of getting fat is how? Through milk and milk products, ghee, butter, paneer, all these things, right? So these are the foods in the mode of goodness. When these foods are eaten, they increase our duration of life and they actually give satisfaction and happiness. Now foods in the mode of passion. Foods in Rajoguna, how are they tasting? Any clues now? Spicy, yes, good. Spicy and anything else? Pungent, yes. Foods in mode of passion are spicy, pungent, and I'll read out here what Krishna is saying. They're too bitter, too sour, salty, pungent, dry, and hot. And they're liked by people in the mode of passion. So now if you now see, this is actually Bhagavad Gita is also a science or a study in psychology. If you just understand what Krishna says about these three modes, now just by seeing what kind of food a person likes, you can immediately figure out, oh, what kind of person is. If somebody is eating a lot of spicy food, oh, I love spicy food, immediately you can understand that he's a person in the mode of passion. Now you can know the person in the mode of passion, what kind of worship he does. And if you go through the next verses, you will know everything about him. You can directly tell also, oh, he'll say, oh, you're good. You can predict, you can foresee a person's character, but it is all there in Bhagavad Gita. So very spicy, salty, pungent, dry, hot. These are foods in the mode of passion. And Prabhupada in the purport says that, and what will happen when you eat such foods? Maja aa gaya? When you eat such food, what happens? Krishna says what will happen actually. He says, such foods cause pain, distress, and disease. So Prabhupada says in the purport that when people eat these spicy, hot, pungent foods, it creates mucus in the stomach, and it causes all kinds of diseases. And that's what Krishna is saying here also. So it is not just that, oh, it's not, we are not supposed to be passionate or something. It will actually harm our health also. Right? One will lose the duration of their life actually by eating too much spicy food. And then food in the mode of ignorance. Any clues? Food in the mode of ignorance, what Krishna is saying? How is it? So Krishna says it is food cooked more than, cooked and taken more than 3 hours after cooking. So that means kind of stale food. And then which is tasteless, stale, putrid, decomposed, and unclean. These are the foods in the mode of ignorance. So anybody knows any of these foods? There are so many actually traditions, culture they have, they keep some foods aside, they let them decompose, ferment, and they get very obnoxious odors also. But still, they will relish and eat. Sometimes they keep it aside for some special festivals. You can see the people, civilizations in mode of ignorance, and they take it that time. But, that is the, characterization of mode of ignorance. And then the question might come, oh, if it is more than 3 hours after cooking, is it mode of ignorance? Then what about food we prepare? The Prabhupada in the purport he clarifies that if it is prasadam, if it is offered to the Lord, it becomes transcendental. And then not forget about 3 hours, even 30 days, 3 months, 3 years also can be taken. Again, food should be edible. A classic example of food which is very old but very cherished. What is it? Today morning some of you might have eaten. Any example, transcendental food? It's a Jagannath dried rice. On today is Dwadashi, right? So when we go to Jagannath Puri, the rice that is offered to the Lord, it is actually dried up and made into like a dry rice, granules. They're available. They sell in small packets, and we have one at our home. I don't know how many years. It is still nice, crunchy, crispy. Just rice, So prasadam, even if forget about 3 hours, however old it is, if it is definitely in an edible condition, it can be taken. So there is no such restriction on prasadam. So that Prabhupada clarifies in the purport. And now comes the sacrifices. What are the kind of sacrifices these different people in these different modes do? So sacrifice is yagna. So Krishna says that people in the mode of goodness, what kind of sacrifice they do? So he says that sacrifice done out of duty and scriptural rules, right? Sacrifices, yagnas done out of duty, out of obligation, and without expectation of reward is of the nature of goodness. So one would wonder, oh, how is this some yagna being done and just out of duty, out of obligation, and no expectation of reward? I'll give an example. Let's say you got a PG&E bill for all your electricity that you have used. Let's say whatever, nowadays winter, the utility bills are a little high. Let's say some $100, $150 you got, and you paid the bill. And then you're waiting 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and you tell in your home, what is this? I sent $200 or whatever, $150. I didn't get back anything from them. Does it make sense? You're paying for what you already used, right? It is a post-paid thing. So in the same way, these different yagnas are mentioned to actually pay our due respect to the various departments of these universal affairs. We are paying to the electricity department, But who is making payment to the sun department? Every day we take so much advantage of sunlight. Today most of you might have checked weather. After a very long time it has come to 70 degrees. And some people might have made plans, at least today I can go out for a walk or something. Right? So who is paying for this sunlight, the moonlight, the nature, the fresh air? Are we paying any bills? No, right? So that is why this yagna, why it should be done out of duty. Like when your PG&E bill comes, you won't start feeling grudging. What is this? Now I have to pay. This is ridiculous. You know that I have utilized all this. It is my due. I have to pay. So that is what in the codes, in the scriptural injunctions, it is given that we are all obligated. We all owe to these different, universal supplies that are being provided to us. And out of, as a respect, out of as a obligation, as a matter of duty, when these are performed without expecting any result, that is in the mode of goodness. Now the mode of passion also, they also do sacrifices. They also do yagna. So it's a similar yagna that they do. Then what is the difference? Here they do it to gain some honor and respect. Sometimes these people in mode of passion, when they do yagna, they'll advertise it very widely. They'll call all the media outlets. Sometimes these politicians do some yagna. Oh, I want to do it for the welfare of the whole city. Their whole intention is to get some good name so that next time elections they can get vote. They're not doing out of matter of obligation or something. They don't even probably know. He will just call one Brahmana and say, I have 3 hours, whatever yagna you can do, you do. After that I have appointment, right? And then it will be televised and advertised, and there will be banners and posters. It depends on, the situation. And then, there is full coverage, and he will take a lot of pictures doing all these things and all. So these kind of yagnas, though it is being done, though it could be, employing a Vedic Brahmana, doing a Vedic ritual, but the intention is, the passionate people, their intention is to get name and fame. So such sacrifice is in the mode of passion. Now, sacrifice, in the mode of ignorance, how does that work? Krishna says that also. Now here it is, mode of ignorance, darkness, is everything is low grade. So even their sacrifice they do, Krishna is saying that it is performed in defiance of scriptural injunctions, right? Where no spiritual food is distributed, no hymns are chanted, and no remunerations are made to the priests. So some kind of, random, somebody's imaginary yagna, they gather some money. They don't do any benefit to anybody. They actually just want to make money for themselves. Like a scam yagna. It is done by the people in the mode of ignorance. So we talked about worship, we talked about food, we talked about yagna, sacrifice. And we will quickly talk about the other things Krishna mentions. It is tapasya, austerity. Tapasya means, tapa means actually heat, difficulty, inconvenience. Tapasya, taking difficulty onto oneself. So tapasya is recommended to purify ourselves. The human life is meant to purify ourselves. We are born with animal instincts, but we are trained and cultured, so many from childhood. Right? A small child, when he's hungry, he sees food, what does he do? Directly tries to go and grab. Then he will be trained, no, this is not how you should eat. And slowly, the same small child, after when he becomes adult and all, he goes to somebody's house, if he's very hungry, does he just go and grab and start eating? No. He controls, he purifies his tendencies. The animal propensities are all purified to bring back to the original, spiritual consciousness, the correct consciousness. So this tapasya is very important to actually elevate ourselves. So Krishna says the tapasya, it is threefold, the austerities. He says there is austerities with respect to the body, with respect to the speech, and with respect to the mind also. So austerity of body, tapasya of body. Anyone wants to say what are the different tapasya for the body? Waking up early. Yes, good one. Anything else? Fasting. Fasting, that is like a spiritual activity, but yeah. So fasting, yeah, that is, fasting it's for spiritual purpose. That becomes no more in any mode. It actually becomes transcendental activity. Sorry? Purity, yes. Yeah. So here I will quickly read what Krishna says. He says, austerities of the body is actually worshipping the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like father and mother. Then he mentions cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, non-violence. These are all austerities of the body. So these are the austerities of the body. Then austerity of speech. This is important. Unless I read Bhagavad Gita, I didn't even knew that there is an austerity of speech. Like tapasya for speech, it was really, it caught my attention. It was surprising. Oh, there is a tapasya for speaking also. What is that? So Krishna says austerity of speech consists in speaking truthfully and beneficially. So this is very important. Truthfully and beneficially. See, just because you are speaking truthful, that is not sufficient all in all. You have to speak beneficially also. Sometimes people speak truthful, but they're very harsh. And they'll say, hey, this is what I am. I'm very straightforward. I'm very frank, okay? I'm speaking the truth. They're very bold and confident. But that is not what Krishna is saying is right. That is not austerity. They're not exercising austerity. Just truthfulness is not sufficient. You have to speak truthful and beneficial. So I'll give an example. Let's say you're invited to somebody's home and they have cooked something, some special item. And for whatever reason, salt was less and whatever spices were not sufficient and it is not very tasty. So what if the guest says, oh, this is so bland and boring, it's tasteless. And they'll say, sorry, I'm truthful, I speak very frankly and I'm always truthful. Well, that is not good, it is hurting, right? So the same thing, how can be said with austerity of speech? He says, yeah, the food, I think little salt and maybe little spice will make it more tastier. It's good, but I think we can add more. How is that? That is beneficial. They will actually appreciate, oh, thank you for the feedback, and they will fix the food. But the previous way of thing, they will probably, that will be the last time you will be invited to their home, right? So speaking truthfully and beneficially is important. So this is very important for us. And then he also says some other things for austerity of speech. He says, avoid speech that offends. So when we speak, we should not offend anybody. See, there are ways to communicate the same, intention or the same message without offending somebody, right? Respectfulness, we should respect. Even though you found a mistake in somebody and you're trying to correct them, you can definitely, make that statement without offending them. So this is instruction from Krishna, right? We should speak without offending. Then that is austerity of speech. And one should also recite the Vedas regularly. So Krishna mentions this also. And then this is austerity of speech, that was austerity of body. And finally he says austerity of mind. So what is the austerity of mind? Any thoughts? What does Krishna say about austerity of mind? Being satisfied, yes, it's very important. Serenity. To be satisfied is a very great asset. Because the unsatisfied person, even though if he has the whole world, he will be still disappointed. He wants to conquer Mars also. Right? We see nowadays people are very excited to go to Mars. So there is no limit to, acquiring anything material if you're not satisfied. So being satisfied with what we have is a great quality. Right? So that is what is actually austerity of mind. And then Krishna says, serenity, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purity of thought are the austerities of mind. Now these things we can't artificially just, I will become self-satisfied. It's not possible. We have to understand, very scientifically the purpose of life, our existence by reading Bhagavad Gita. These will help us. This will give us enough knowledge and tools to actually be peaceful. How can a person with some knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna consciousness, can he be peaceful? Let's say he did not get promotion or he's not earning as much money as his neighbor. How will he be peaceful? Generally they'll be agitated, isn't it? Your classmate or your friend who graduated same, now he has become very rich and you're this. How does a regular person will get agitated? But one who has this knowledge, he will understand that everything is as per karma. My past life, whatever I did, this is my karma, this is what I get. So this is what it is, this is what Lord sanctioned. This was the Vedic culture. That is why in the olden days, even though poor people, they were happy. They were not, very dissatisfied. That is fine, this is my karma, that is your karma. Even the rich people, they were not very arrogant. They say, oh, whatever, somehow Lord has benedicted me. And they try to help others also, right? So this knowledge is important. So that is austerity, tapasya. And then the last thing is charity, the donations. These are very common, right? People do yagna, they do tapasyas, they do charity, they do. So the charity, Krishna says, one that is performed without expectation of any return and without desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, which is given out of duty to at the proper time and place to a worthy person without expectation of return, is charity in the mode of goodness. So that is an important one. And what about charity in the mode of passion? He says, with some fruitive desire, expecting some result, again, name, fame, honor. If they're giving donation, they want to make sure a picture is taken so that all social media platforms, they can put a picture, right? And then there are some who want to do anonymous donation, right? So very high level we can see. So expecting, again, name, fame out of doing the charity, that is in the mode of passion. And Mode of ignorance. The charity performed at improper place and time, given to unworthy persons, without respect and with contempt, is charity in the mode of ignorance. So they don't know whom to give, what to give. Sometimes outside the pub and bar, some drunkards, right? There'll be some people begging also, like, can you please give me, I want to go and drink. And some rich people, they feel very proud, like charitable, yeah, here you go, $20, go drink what you want. Right? So that is charity given to an unworthy person for an unworthy cause. What happens? He will drink, and what will happen after that? He accumulates a lot more sin. And being drunkard, if he commits some more sinful activity, this person will get implicated. So this is the things like that. So that is charity. And now this we discussed all of this in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now, out of all this, what is it that is to be done actually, which is good? In general, we know better than ignorance is passion, better than passion is goodness. So, is goodness is what we should all aim for? Right? Should we worship the demigods? Should we do sacrifice as obligation? Should we give charity? Is this what we should do? Krishna then he says, he's concluding, actually, even though I have mentioned about these three modes, the right way to do is Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesho. So this is what it has to be done for the pleasure of the Supreme. So Krishna is saying here that actually whenever you do this yajna, dana, tapasya, everything, it should be done with the beginning of Om Tat Sat. And what does that mean? Not just say Om Tat Sat and do whatever you want. Om Tat Sat means it addresses the Supreme Lord. Om is the sound representation of the Lord. Tat is saying, Tattvam Asi, it is addressing the Supreme Lord. And Sat is the eternal, the Supreme Lord eternal. Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesho. So all of these things should be done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, right? See in the last it says, all this during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Now this is beyond goodness. This is beyond Sattva. This is called Shuddha Sattva. It is transcending all the three modes. Why? Why should it be done in this? Why not in the goodness? Goodness seems to be better. No, because even though when you're doing anything in the mode of goodness, you're still conditioned to this material world. And what will happen? You will have to take birth again. And once you take birth, you will have to go through the stages of old age, disease, and death. So this is not a very favorable situation. The real purpose of life, or human life, is to go back to Krishna, is to attain mukti, is to go to Vaikuntha. And that is possible when we dovetail all our tendencies to the Supreme Lord. So that is what in the next few verses also, I'll quickly read what Krishna is saying. So this is no more a person in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. One who is doing it for the Supreme, for the satisfaction of Krishna, he is known as transcendentalist. He is transcending all the three modes. And what Krishna says, thus the transcendentalist undertakes sacrifice, charity, and penances, beginning always with Om, to attain the Supreme. So here is the important thing, the purpose. The purpose for the passionate person is to get name and fame. The purpose for the ignorant person, he also doesn't know, he's crazy. The person for the mode of goodness, his purpose is, okay, I have to do, it's my duty. No, but there has to be a real purpose. The purpose is to attain the Supreme. I want to go back to Krishna. I belong to Krishna. I don't belong here. This is a temporary material world. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Again and again, I'm taking birth, death, and disease and old age. This is not where I belong. I belong to a different world called Vaikuntha, and I have to go there. That is where the Supreme Lord resides, right? So that is it. And then Krishna then further he says, one should perform yajna, dana, tapasya with the word tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities to get free from the material entanglement. See, Krishna is now very clearly saying why you should do it for Supreme, to become free from material entanglement. And then he says the absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, right? When we perform devotion, when we do it to the Supreme Lord, we are serving Him, it becomes devotional service. And then the objective of devotional service is the absolute truth. And so that is why Krishna says all austerities, performance of austerity, sacrifice, and charity should be done, to please the Supreme Person. So this is the conclusion. Right? So the conclusion, we talked about so many things, and final conclusion comes, what is it that we should do? The conclusion is, we should do in a transcendental mode. We should do everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Now, yajna, sacrifices, how can we do for the satisfaction of Supreme? In Kali Yuga, it is very easy. What yajna we are all supposed to do? Sankirtan yajna. So simplest yajna. No need of a very big elaborate fire sacrifice and tons of butter or ghee and vegetables and grains. The original sacrifices mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, very elaborate. We can't even imagine to do those. So that is why in Kali Yuga, Sankirtan Yajna is given. Simply chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this Sankirtan Yagna, if you do, you get all the benefit of performing Yagna. And Om Tat Sat Iti, it is actually, you're doing it for the Supreme, to please the Supreme. So Sankirtan Yagna, Hare Krishna mantra chanting should be done. So there are two ways of chanting, as all of you know. You can do japa, which we will all do. So I'll request the volunteers to hand over the beads to everyone. So we will do Sankirtan Yagna. And then dana, charity. How should we give charity? Whom should we give to? Charity also should be done for the Supreme Lord. Now, how can we do for the Supreme Lord? For the service of the Supreme Lord, we can definitely give in temples. But what is the mission of the Lord? What is the purpose of charity? What is it that the Lord's mission? Why did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita? He wants everyone to come back to Godhead. He wants everyone to come back to Vaikuntha. So utilizing our money to distribute this knowledge, to distribute Bhagavad Gitas, to distribute the transcendental knowledge, to distribute prasadam, this is all comes under charity dana for the Supreme Being. So that is how charity should be done. And tapasya, how should tapasya be done? Austerities and penances. Again, same formula has become very simple. Everything to please the Supreme Lord. So how do I know what tapasya I should do to please the Lord? That also becomes very easy. The spiritual master gives us some tapasya. Like wake up in the morning, chant Hare Krishna, fast for Ekadasi, fast for festival days, eat only prasadam. These are all simple regulations. Little difficulty, but if you analyze, actually not much difficulty. It is actually very peaceful when you get up in the morning and chant, when you eat only vegetarian food, when you chant Hare Krishna mantra. But these are the general tapasya. Yagna, dana, tapasya. These should be never given up and should all be done for the pleasure of the Supreme. And when we do this, what happens? As Krishna here said, we will all attain the Supreme. We have one purpose. There is only one aim of goal. One goal for every human being is to be freed from this material entanglement. And anything else is an illusion. If anybody else has an aim of, I want to become rich or famous or this or that, I want to do all kinds of different thoughts, that is not the correct aim. The aim is one. We all have a common problem. Just like, the same vaccine is given to everybody, isn't it? Oh, I am a software engineer, I am a doctor, or I am a medical or whatever lawyer. The vaccine is same, right? Because the problem is same for everybody. If anybody who gets infected with COVID, there is a problem. In the same way, we are all infected with this bhavaroga, material disease. The solution is same for all of us, no matter what it is to work towards going back to Krishna, which is devotional service, which is transcendental activity. And in this Kali Yuga is this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So I request all of you. So we'll spend around 8-10 minutes chanting one round of Hare Krishna mantra. So please repeat after me. We'll chant the Guru Pranam mantra and then Hare Krishna mantra we'll all chant together. Okay? We'll take advantage of what we have learned about today. So please repeat after me. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we can all chant the Hare Krishna mantra together now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. I think the volunteers can collect the beads. So thank you all for participating. So this is Japa Yagna. As Krishna said, Om Tat Sat Iti. So when you do this Japa Yagna, you are actually doing to please the Supreme. And now we will all do Sankirtan Yagna. We'll do the same Hare Krishna mantra in a nice melodious singing tune with instruments, and we can dance and all that. So request all of you to continue these practices and make advancement towards the ultimate goal of life. Hare Krishna. So please stand up now for Arati, and you can face towards Krishna Balaram.